The Taken King changed Destiny forever. Before we even got our first glimpse of the Taken King during E3 2015, players of course were excited to see what this soon-to-come large fall expansion was all about. Bungie had hinted at a 2.0 update that would change the game in major ways, and after the success of the House of Wolves DLC, speculation amongst fans, as usual, ran wild with possibilities. But I don't think players were prepared for that E3 Taken King reveal.
His name is Oryx.
Oryx! Oh my god, really?
And he's coming for you, Guardian.
They really want to bring Oryx.
So like I said, during the PlayStation Showcase in E3 2015, we would get our first real look at the Taken King expansion, and man did it look good. Oryx was the center of the marketing, the big baddie of the expansion. Someone who we've heard so much about, especially during the Dark Below revolving around Crota, Oryx's son. New supers, new destination, new campaign, so many new strikes and Crucible maps. It was shaping up to be more of a sequel rather than an expansion. The content coming in the Taken King looked great, and anticipation was at an all-time high for Destiny fans. The 3-month wait after the reveal almost killed us, but a week before Taken King's launch, we got the 2.0 update. So many systems were overhauled. XP leveling and light leveling was the biggest change. Where in Year 1 gear would need to have light attached to its values in order to go up levels, instead with the Taken King we would have XP levels separate from our light level. XP level rose from level 20 to level 40, and our light level was now associated by the value on our gear rather than light level on our gear. And this was for any gear, not just raid gear. Infusion gear was similar to how we did it with Etheric Light in the House of Wolves, only this time instead of Etheric Light, it was whichever piece of gear was higher that would now act as infusion material. Things like ghost shells also now contributed to your light level. Class items too, and a new item called artifacts that basically served as just a stat boosting piece of fodder. Initially with the 2.0 update, infusion wouldn't quite bump up the level to what the infusion material had, meaning it wasn't a 1-to-1 infusion. For example, a 310 helmet being infused into a 300 helmet would bring it up to something like 305. It kind of just split the difference a bit. There were calculators made online by players in the community that would do the specific math for you if you were curious about how exactly it worked, and it was kind of frustrating that it wasn't just 1-to-1 infusion. And that was an almost immediate complaint about the new light level system. However, the groundwork was laid for this leveling mechanic that would basically remain the same for the next 7 years of the franchise, and despite the 1-to-1 issue, players would receive the change to leveling very positively. Weapon stats were changed in pretty major ways. Damage falloff was now more of a thing. In Year 1, weapons range stat was almost meaningless, and there was very little damage falloff, if any. And now with the 2.0 update, things like hand cannons and auto rifles would be hit pretty hard in that regard. A plethora of perks would be changed in their lethality, like Final Round, Shot Package, Rangefinder, Field Scout, Hammer Forged. Pretty much all of the top tier perks from Year 1 were nerfed a little bit. Exotic weapons and armor pieces would receive a bunch of changes as well across the board. Some were buffed, some were nerfed, but most of the changes were well received. Year 1 activities were questified to be a lot more new player friendly and streamlined in their delivery. Our Ghost's voice actor was replaced by Nolan North for every line in the game, bounty slot size increased to 16, the vault was converted into a much larger and better organized version of itself, kiosks were added for things like shaders, emblems, sparrows, ships, and exotics, and this was kind of a precursor to the collection system of Destiny 2. Banshee in the Tower would receive a lot more use with his new Arms Day quests, where you could work towards a new shipment of weapons that could potentially be god rolls. Factions would now be something you would pledge to in order to rank up through passive progression, receiving their own exotic class item quest after reaching rank 25 with them. Currencies were simplified between armor materials now being one universal material rather than 3 separate ones per class, and legendary marks would replace the old Crucible and Vanguard mark system. PvP would receive new additions like the new Mercy rule to end blowout games, new post-game drops exclusive to PvP, balance changes made to various existing game modes, as well as adding 3 new game modes, Mayhem, Rift, and Zone Control, as well as 8 PvP maps, and a whole bunch of other quality of life changes. The 2.0 update was huge, and we hadn't even got the expansion yet. But it was only 1 week away, and during the 2.0 update week ahead of launch was some of the most fun I've ever had in Destiny PvP. 8 new maps with the massive sandbox changes just felt like a new game, in the best way possible. It felt familiar, obviously, because it was still Destiny 1, but so much experimenting was going on. There was no meta during that week, and everyone was just having fun playing the new maps, trying so many different things, and feeling very positive going into Taken King's launch. And after 7 days of experiencing this new and improved Destiny, we would finally get the Taken King expansion. And let's take a look at what we got. We received 8 beefy campaign missions focused on Oryx and his Taken army, 8 major post-campaign questlines like the Taken War quests that had us fighting off Taken champions all around the solar system, the Wolves of Mars questline, the Paradox Vault of Glass questline that was focused on some of the deep lore related to the Vault of Glass and its characters, various exotic quests both obvious and hidden, more secret questlines aboard the Dreadnought with great lore and rewards, 4 fantastic strikes, the Fallen Saber, Shield Brothers, Echo Chamber, and the Sunless Cell, all with brand new strike-specific loot to chase, and even old strikes would receive updated loot pools with specific weapons or armor pieces. 17 new exotic weapons, 12 new exotic armor pieces, a massive vendor refresh, new Iron Banner weapons and armor sets, new Trials of Osiris weapons and armor sets, the Dreadnought destination full of so many secrets and things to do, including the first world boss style event, the Court of Oryx, which was widely popular. And again, 8 PvP maps, 7 right at launch and 1 more released after the raid was completed. And which raid was that? It was the King's Fall raid, of course, something that blew all of our minds when it released.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah, he's in.
Boy. He looks big. Okay, nope. Oh my what? Nope. He's immune.
Nothing up to that point could even compare to King's Fall. The Taken King truly felt like a whole new game thanks to not just the overhauls to core systems, but the sheer amount of content that it brought. It was truly massive. Now backing up a little bit to the campaign, the mission design and writing was at its best up to that point. If the positive improvements during the House of Wolves campaign made you happy, then the improvements in the Taken King campaign would have you ecstatic. Much deeper narrative fleshed out with cutscenes and real character development, unique locations all around the Dreadnought and even new parts of old locations, a build-up and finale that was very satisfying, and then of course, the send-off with Taken King's best piece of content, the King's Fall raid. And like I mentioned, nothing had even come close to the level of complexity, difficulty, and length of the King's Fall raid prior to its release. Vault of Glass was great, but King's Fall was an experience. It truly earned the title of a raid. The sheer amount of distance traveled, champions defeated, failures along the way, followed by the grand finale of sending Oryx hurling into space. Defeating Oryx was not only one of the best moments in Destiny, but one of the best moments in gaming. The Taken King's amount of content kept everyone busy for quite a while. Not just because of so many new things to do, but again because it felt like a new game. Bungie would even surprise everyone with a new exotic quest or new secret to find almost every week. Like the famous Black Spindle mission, which was released a week after the Taken King launched. Or even a month after release in October, we got the Sleeper Simulant questline that was just as difficult and complex as the original Outbreak Prime quest in the Rise of Iron. Trials and Iron Banner were still very active and popular due to their major draw with new armor sets and top tier weapons, and we even got a surprise holiday themed event, Festival of the Lost. Now we had a few holiday things in year one like jack-o'-lantern helmet consumables, and at Christmas time Rahul gave us all a present, but this right here was our actual first real holiday event. Releasing a week before Halloween, Festival of the Lost was a total surprise, and nothing was announced ahead of time, so when you booted up the game that Tuesday, nobody knew we'd be greeted by Halloween decorations or trick-or-treat questlines. Eververse had just been added to the game about a week before Festival of the Lost, and of course, our quest began with her in the tower. The quest related to the event had you collecting candy that you would turn into Eva Levante once it was filled, and she would of course reward you with a mask. There were 17 possible masks, and in order to keep your mask after the event ended, you would need to upgrade it to Legendary, which you could do with glue. You could get a few of these for free by dismantling your free Legendary mask per character that you would receive at the beginning of the event, but mostly this was just an incentive to buy some loot boxes from Eververse that would contain glue or a new mask. Now, some of you will remember that the most sought after mask at the time was the Blue Skull mask, which everyone spent way too much money trying to get, as well as buying the Thriller emote, and plenty of other emotes. From their inception, holiday events were of course designed around spending money at Eververse, but we didn't quite know it at the time because it was also new to us and we were too busy reveling in the event. This was brand new after all. And it was at this point that many players were very impressed with the post-Taken King content and consistent updates, but of course, speculation began again about the next DLC in December. I mean, there was going to be a DLC in December, right? Well, that's what we all thought, but in early December it was confirmed by Bungie that there would be no DLC coming in December or even in the spring, and instead would shift to event-based content for the year. Senior designer at Bungie, Derek Carroll, would announce that with the Taken King we are moving to a more event-based model, things like the Festival of the Lost, and then smaller events such as Iron Banner and Trials of Osiris every weekend, rather than doing these giant monolithic DLC packs. This way, everybody who owns the Taken King can enjoy these things. This was of course very disappointing news, as fans almost always just wanted more Destiny, and the Taken King had the game in a really good place, and to see DLC not coming for the year was pretty tough. With this announcement though, would come the announcement of another major event, Sparrow Racing League. Sparrow Racing League would be a very popular event that went on for 3 weeks. 6-man racing on 2 different tracks made specifically for the event. It came with a whole host of new Sparrows to earn with new models, some of the game's best shaders and emblems, Sparrow horns, as well as Sparrow racing gear, which of course granted you bonuses to your Sparrow racing capabilities. You had the option to purchase from Eververse an event booklet that was basically the equivalent to earning a title in Destiny 2. The booklet provided you with rewards for completing various challenges and kept record of your fastest times on the tracks. SRL was very popular, but players were still massively disappointed that there were no plans for DLC expansions throughout the whole year. Around the same time as SRL, we would get some other new things. First was some updates to 15 old exotics from Year 1 that would bring a lot of changes to how they worked in comparison to their Year 1 counterparts, as well as a few new exotics like the Twilight Garrison for Titans and the ATS-8 Tarantella for the Hunters. Challenge modes would also come in the update for the King's Fall raid that would reward players with 320 light level artifacts guaranteed, and challenge mode would kind of wind up being a bit underwhelming from a gameplay perspective, since most of the challenges were either so easy they could be ignored, or were already the default strategy in the case of Oryx. And things were pretty quiet for the next 2 months of Destiny, at least from a new content perspective. But we would get another event in February called Crimson Days. This event was of course the Valentine's Day event and featured a new 2v2 elimination game mode where you could earn the new rewards from the event. An emblem, a couple shaders, a new ghost shell, and you could just enjoy the fun that the new game mode brought. The catch of the 2v2 event was that if your teammate died, you would receive the Broken Heart buff, which would max out all your stats across everything. Armor, recovery, reload speed, literally everything. Eververse, of course, was packed with new emotes, but the event went on for just a week, and this event in particular was pretty minor. But after that week, it was pretty slow going for another 2 months. Then we actually got some pretty good news. We would be receiving a brand new update akin to what would be considered a season in Destiny 2, and this update was known as the April update, as it released in April 2016. It would bring a whole heap of new weapons, some new armor sets, most popular being the Taken armor set of course, but the Chroma armor was really good as well. It would bring a brand new questline with a strike on the moon, the Blighted Chalice that had us hunting down Malak. The Winter's Run strike would get a revamped Taken version with a new boss and some new loot. Prison of Elders would get a revamp known as the Challenge of the Elders, which was a shorter 3-round version of the Prison of Elders with some new Taken champions to take down. This also brought along a new scoring system that would track your high score and require certain amounts of points to complete specific bounties. And of course, in the new Challenge of Elders, you could get the old Prison of Elders exotics, brought up to Year 2. There were new paths made to earn maximum light level, which was now 335. Instead of just the raid or Trials of Osiris, now players could earn max level gear in many different activities. Challenge of the Elders, Nightfalls, Court of Oryx, raids, Iron Banner, Trials. And to top it all off, 1-to-1 infusion rates were added to the game, which was probably the best quality of life change that has never gone away since it was introduced because it was just so good. Major sandbox changes were made for the sake of crucible balance primarily, however they did change the sniper rifle ammo economy to be much lower, and in PvE this was a bit of a controversial change, as it made the Kingsfall raid a bit tougher to do since snipers were kind of the most useful weapon throughout all of the encounters, and by extension some strikes became a little bit tougher as well. Overall though, the April update was a major win for Bungie and the player base at that time. It wasn't a lot of content, but it was enough to bring players back for a little while and satiate our thirst for new content. All in all, the year of the Taken King was known as the content drought year, and while I can definitely agree that it was tough in some regards, I wouldn't say it was a year with no content. There were still updates and additions to the game, holiday events were brand new at the time and were pretty good during this year I'd say. The April update was solid, and yes, it was a bit of a drier year. But the Taken King itself was a phenomenal expansion, and during the off months of the year, it gave players a chance to breathe a little bit, try out some other games like The Division or Overwatch, and it allowed us to be excited for what would come next in Destiny.